Well, hello there. So today I'm going to show off how to develop a plane and a pyramid, essentially like this. So if you were to go and look in the technical drawing book, there's two details that I feel like really capture this well. There's this one, developing a transition piece connecting rectangular pipes on the same axis. And there's this one with a plane cutting through a pyramid, essentially. So really what I'll be doing is this one, the transition piece, but I thought I would kind of show both because they're both relevant, of course, and it's the same concept, just with different shapes. So the idea is, you have your general two views, you label them, and then, you have an origin point where everything comes from. And this is where everything comes from, the magic, of the projection for these true to size edges. So, when you don't have a 3D model of this, it's kind of hard because you can't really measure a slant and any correct shape. So the trick is to go about making these primes, A prime, 1 prime, 2 prime. I think that's what they are, is prime. But you essentially draw a circle from the origin in a top view, snapping to the vertex on, dependent, if the shape is weird, it may be multiple sides or it may just be one, like in the case of this. And you do the same for the outside, which is what they're showing here. And then you extend a line down until you get to the point that these points reside on, which in this case would be the line A. And where that meets that line, you draw a circle to that point. And essentially this is the shape that you would use for over here. So you would have a circle OA prime, and that's what you would see here is OA prime. And the same thing applies to the outside. You would have like O4 project down, where that meets you would have O4 prime, which is the shape for all of these. That's cool, but what if you don't have a pyramid that is centered? Well, that's why I have this one here. So the same concept applies to anything, not necessarily just like a really crooked plane like this. It can be this, except for with it off center. So I pulled this one up to show you that basically this one is different. You have varying points and you can draw a circle to each vertex, and it's more work, but essentially you can translate that information. You just project it down and you'll have multiple circles. And yeah, it's kind of in-depth, but we're going to play around with it, and I'm going to try to help you through this in case anybody's struggling with this. So first things first, I'm going to go in and I've labeled everything, and I will find all of the places that need to have their own projection circle. So we can see immediately when I drew this one, and make sure when you're doing all this, if you do have intersection on, turn it off unless you absolutely need it, because it will mess you up. So anyways, we've got these two, they line up. So now I need to do one for this other side. So that covers 4A and 3A. And we'll do the same over here, which covers 1 and 2, but not 3 and 4. So now I'll do those. And this gets convoluted real quick. So, what I'm going to do is go ahead and trim the excess of this. And unfortunately my letters are in the way, so it's kind of piecemealing the trim, but that's okay. So I'll do the same over here. Make sure it got everything, and it didn't. It's the price I pay to have accurate text placement. Okay, so I'm going to do the same over here. We'll trim this stuff and here. And unfortunately, still it did not get all of it. Okay, so we'll delete the extra. A little bit of TLC, but it's worth it. Okay, so now we have these. And what we will do is snap to the quadrants. So let's make sure quadrant is on. It is. And that's okay. It did the midpoint, but same concept. Alright, so I'm going to draw arbitrarily down. And what I will do, actually, I'm going to go ahead and ignore the internal ones. We'll get the general shape first. And then we'll go about doing the internal part. It's a lot easier once you have the first half done. Alright, so where this line meets the crossing of this edge is where we will draw the circle. So just for the sake of clarity, I'm going to draw way out in space, and I will just move this dimension for now. And we'll trim, and I'll move it back. Okay, and that's going to be one circle. And then same over here. We'll just move this little lad. Okay, so now we know the size of our two largest circles. So from that origin point, just like you did in top view, we are going to draw to that crossing. Alright, so we'll do the same on this side. And essentially what we have here is, you know, those primes that we talked about over there, except for, you know, this will be the actual true length of the slanted lines themselves. So this is going to take up a lot of real estate to make this development. So I'm going to move it like a lot out in space. Let's do 250. And you'll see what I mean, because as soon as I copy this over, and we may trim this later, but as soon as I copy this over, you're going to see it's huge. And if you notice, I did offset this to start. You know, it's up to you how you locate these, but my preference is definitely like the book shows, which is essentially parallel to the original edge that we started with. So from here, you know, I could go ahead and sneak out my labels that I had already planned ahead with. And I'll put them right here. So we can move and put the origin here. Okay, so let's take a look at the first thing. So you're supposed to, as with the book, start and go clockwise. It kind of varies on how it shows it, but what I'm going to do is how the rest of them I've seen have been, which is the top right is where you'll start with 1. So our first edge will be, you know, in this case, like the 1D in the top right. So we will use 1 and 1A. And if you look, 1 goes to the shorter circle. So we're going to extend this out to the shorter circle. And we'll go ahead and label that. So 1. Okay. So next up, you may think, well, you know, how do you go about this? You know, do you just give a width of, you know, 54 and just kind of like aim it? Or so there's a weird trick for this, and this has got to be some really, really archaic stuff, but it works. So when you have a circle crossing another circle, no matter where it is, the value of the distance will be the same. So the idea is you go to the end of this line, turn on your radius circle, and you will give that value. So 54. So now, when I connect to this next one, the distance between the 2 points will be exactly 54. It's a really cool little life hack that I really necessarily didn't know about. But so yeah, so that was edge 1. So now we're going to edge 2. Now edge 2, as you can see, is the same circle, which is the interior circle. So when you're looking at the crossing, essentially you're choosing, and I'm going to turn my intersection back on. When you're looking at the crossing, you're going to go for the inner one, not the outer. And again, be very cautious with intersection. I would double check everything because it's so easy to mess these up. And okay, so now we're going to move 2. And you could probably already start to see a trend. It's really not hard. It's just connecting the dots and discerning where goes what goes where. Alright, it's the same deal. We're going to go to that intersection, and our next width is 76, and that's from 2 to 3. So I'm going to type in 76. Now we can go ahead and again choose the endpoint. And when we're looking here at edge 3, you can see that it goes to the outer circle. So next I'll go to that crossing and click the outer circle intersection. Alright, so we can do the little placement of the 3. We'll put it about right here. Actually, we'll move it. Probably should have been putting these on the outside the whole time, but that's okay. Alright, so our final edge is 4, and then we'll have to go back to 1. So 4 is an outer circle as well. And I forgot my circle, so that's okay. From 3 to 4 is 54, so we'll type that in. And then edge 4 is an outer, so we'll find that intersection. Go ahead and place our label. And you know, I didn't think about that I would need 1 twice, so go ahead and copy that. Okay, so now we need another circle, and it'll be from that past one, of course. And the width from 4 to 1 is 76. So now we can go ahead and do that final connection. Now edge 1 is short, so we're going to go to the short circle now. When I say short and long, obviously I mean interior versus exterior, but I assume by now you get that. Okay, so this is great, but this is a lot of crap, and it's really easy to confuse when you see all these little ones. So this is a rare time where I would say delete all the extra circles. So now make sure you turn your intersection back off and just connect the endpoints of each of these, ideally on the right layer. Okay, and just like that, we actually have the outside shape already built. So now from here, we just need to do the same process with the interior circles and remove from what we have. Let's go ahead and copy this 1A since I forgot about it. Okay, so we had these earlier. Let's just go ahead and do their extensions now. Alright, so what I will do is draw straight down, and in this instead of going all the way down, we actually will go to where those points are, and they reside over here on this edge, so we can trim out the excess, delete this little redundant guy that's left, and our first circle will go to that vertex. And let's do the same on the other side. Alright, so this one will go to here. And I'll just shorten this dim for a second. Okay, so now I can draw a circle here and a circle here. And I can copy those over. Okay, so now we have what is ostensibly the rough, you know, true size of where those circles will go. We just need to go and line up the edges again. And I forgot to put my 1 earlier, apparently. Alright, so there's that. And, you know, I didn't mention it, but if you do have a 3D model of this part, you know, you can go through and confirm that each face looks like that. But obviously, you know, if you have a 3D model, you're probably not doing this. So, all right. So, edge 1 is going to be the short interior circle. So that'll be edge 1 and 2. And it gets a little quicker since we're kind of, you know, zipping along now. So what we know on this one, and I'm going to use break for these. Turn intersection on. We'll have to use it for each click. So for edge 1, interior is going to be short. Edge 2 will also be, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim it, and then I'll place our stuff. Okay. And let's move these over. So there's 1A, 2A. So now we need to do edge 3A, which is long. And we'll go through and do another break. And naturally, we're going to do it on this part. And we'll go ahead and just jump and do 4 as well. 4 is long, so we can do the same. And finally, when we go back to 1, 1 is short. So I'll just go ahead and change these layers and put the labels, and you'll start to see a good trend. Alright, so here's 4. And 3. I turned my snap off for that, but you get the idea. Essentially, you've got 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 1A, back to 1A. So then we just need to go ahead and finish the shapes out. Now, again, I would also suggest no intersection for these, just do endpoints. And I'm on the wrong layer every time. Okay, so we'll select these. And there we go. So now we have all of the side faces, and you can confirm these values are correct to an extent. You know, obviously the width here should be 76. It is. This should be 54, and obviously the same across it all. Yeah, so now we can see a little better, but the same applies up here. So if I were to dimension the top, we have 26.43 and 18.78. Whoa. So 18.78, 26.43, you know, and the same around. So that tells us we're on the right track. So from here, you know, you could do a lot of things. For me, one thing I like to do is, man, just tidy up. You know what I mean? Like, this is so paper clogging. So what I like to do is trim this in half. Oh, thought I was on trim and I was drawing a line. So trim this. And essentially, I guess we can do the same with the interior as well. You don't have to do this, but it does simplify things a little. And then I actually like to trim these as well. So I'm going to go through and trim all of this. But in order to not make it a mess, let's actually just draw like a temporary horizontal line. Problem is, if you do this last, you'll probably not do it. You know, it's just the best to go ahead and take care of it while you feel like doing it. So alright, so I'm going to delete this part, and I guess we'll keep this. It is looking kind of nice having those. Oh, okay. So now we've got that. It's a little cleaner. You can see a little better. We can move things closer if we needed to. But you know, these obviously, this face and this face are, you know, still a perfect distance apart. So I could always, you know, shift it back that way if I needed to. So anywho, at this point, all we're missing is our bottom face and our top face. So what I can do is copy this and just delete a bunch of the junk after. So I'll go ahead and just can all that stuff. As we slowly whittle all this down. A lot of extras here. Don't need the whole middle. Actually, come to think of it, we don't need these slants either. You know, so what we're looking at is basically two views right here. We've got the top face and the bottom. So now you've obviously got to match these up. So, you know, this would be 76. So I need to match this one to the 76, or I could do this one. I think I'm going to do it to the 76 one because it would fold better. So essentially all we'll do is snap it here, and then we'll select all of this and just rotate it, and then delete the extra edge. So I'll do a base point, then we'll do reference. We'll drag the line and connect it. And obviously you'll know if it worked right if you don't have any excess. These edges meet perfectly. The vertexes are coincident. So we have done a good thing. And we'll do the same thing essentially, connecting to the same face over here. We'll just do that same little rotate trick. And look at that. That's nice. So, just like that, you know, we have all four of our side views true to size, mind you. You know, if I were to go in dimension, we have 69.35. And if I were to, you know, take the time to go and draw to the extension, this should also be 69.35. Actually, that's the wrong side. It's the other one over here. Yeah, so let me redraw that. Wait a tick. I can never tell which one's measured, to be honest with y'all, but oh, that's because I'm being silly, guys. Yeah, it would be from here to here is 100.46. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, so, you know, technically you don't have to have these. I guess I'll put them just for the heck of it to make things a little more clear. But, you know, so essentially that true to size value we were using earlier, I didn't bother to do this whole step. You know, like in the book it shows doing this slanted view here. But I find using circles, you can kind of avoid that. The problem is if you're entering any values, you're going to get them wrong. There's going to be a round off. So using the circle method, it kind of avoids that. It's a little easier, in my opinion, not having to enter numbers. And, you know, it looks darn aesthetically pleasing. So, but that's going to be it. If anybody's struggling with this concept at all, just let me know.